Live. I'm Lindsay Strand, filling in for the vacationing Bob Bruce. Do you get worried when your baby cries a lot during the night? Do you ever have questions about the care and feeding of your child? Well, if you do, you will want to join us today because we are going to get the answers from a man whose insight has influenced parents and professionals all over the country, the pediatric guru of the 1980s, Dr. T. Barry Brazelton. Everybody, if you have ever had a question about parenting, this show is for you. We want to give a warm welcome this morning to our guest, Dr. T. Barry Brazelton, who is a professor at the Harvard Medical School, a pediatrician, and is also chief of the Child Development Unit at Boston's Children's Hospital. He is known for his efforts on behalf of paternity leave, and you may well recognize him because he is also the star of What Every Baby Knows, which appears on the Lifetime Cablevision Network. Dr. Brazelton, we all, babies and all, who have filled this audience this morning, want to welcome you and ask you, parenting has been going on forever. Is it any different today than it was 25 years ago?
Oh, yeah, the stresses are enormous today on young parents, but the energy they have, you know, like this audience is fantastic. To sit, I go to lecture somewhere every week, and now, after I finish 2 hours of lecture, parents will come up and grab me by the tie and grab me by the belt and grab me by the trousers and say, "We aren't going to let you go until you answer our questions." That is fantastic.
What is it that's different? Why are people so hungry for all of this information?
Well, I think the extended family, you know, used to be there for us, at least in my day, but not now. And so they have to get information where they can. Television, books, thank goodness. But anyway, they have to look for it now.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the basics here when we're starting out with a newborn and how you find out sometimes what your baby's trying to tell you. We hear cooing in this audience. We hear a few babies that might sound a little bit unhappy. How do you know what a baby's cry is trying to tell you?
Oh, gosh, I think a mother within a week knows the different cries of a baby, and there are about 4 different cries at least that one can differentiate. Boredom, hunger, pain, what else? You all tell me. But there's so many different cries, and by a week, a mother can tell the difference between her baby's cries and everybody else's.
Well, I have a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old boy, and I can tell everything my 2-year-old wants. I can't tell anything my 6-month-old wants.
You can't?
He is never content unless I'm standing up and holding him. And so I'm getting accused of spoiling him. But I've read that if you hold them a lot before they're 6 months of age, they're more secure, and you can't spoil them.
Well, I wouldn't worry about spoiling, but I wonder why he's so fussy. Do you have any idea?
I don't know. I put him in the swing, in the walker. The only time he's really happy is if I'm standing and holding him.
Well, maybe maybe you've gotten him hooked on being held. Maybe you better let him get independent a little bit.
Is that one of the things that you have to know? And how do you know as a parent? When is it time to put that baby down?
Well, I think the baby's telling her now that he really isn't contented on his own. And by 6 months, I'd want him to be a lot more independent than that. So I think it is time to begin to put him down and let him see he can do things for himself now. You know, hand him a toy when you put him down and let him see he can do it by himself. And then, you know, teach him some independence.
A lot of us rely on those nooks, the pacifiers, or a thumb to try and content a baby sometimes. What do you think about the nooks? Are they okay to use?
Well, I have a preference for the thumb because they're so independent with their thumbs. And, you know, they start learning their thumbs in the uterus. We did some experiments on fetuses in the uterus, and we had a buzzer that went off right near the uterus, and it went bzzz, and the whole uterus jumped. Second buzz, less jump. Third buzz, no jump. Fourth buzz, she put her thumb in her mouth and turned away from the buzzer. And then we used a rattle right next to the mother's uterus, and she opened her eyes, took her thumb out of her mouth, and looked right at the rattle. And to me, that is fabulous. That baby's already got her thumb right with her. So I prefer the thumb.
And do you let the babies grow out of those at their own speed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think any dentist now that works with children is that worried about whether they misshape their mouths before 5 or 6 years of age anyway. And they say now that it's not the thumb or the pacifier that misshapes their mouths, it's tongue thrust. And so if they're using something like a binky or their thumb, they aren't very likely to thrust their tongue. So all that old information really doesn't make any sense anymore.
We've got someone with a caller. Good morning, caller. You're on Twin Cities Live.
Yes, I have an 11-month-old daughter, and she does this mostly at night. You'll put her down for bed with her bottle and everything. She'll be fine for a couple hours, and all of a sudden she'll just wake up really screaming, like if someone had pinched her or something. I was thinking maybe she might be having bad dreams or something. I'm not real sure. She doesn't do it in the afternoon too often. And then you have a hard time putting her back down. She just wants to be held. I mean, she's got her arms around me, and she's a very independent baby. I mean, I have no problem putting her down for a nap in the afternoon or anything, but she's done it like maybe, like I said, she's 11 months. She's probably done it 5 times now since I've had her, and it's kind of scary because I wonder, oh, God, what happened, you know? Is she having a bad dream or?
Yeah, I think she's coming up to light sleep, REM sleep. This is when they do it. Every 4 hours they come up to light sleep and cry out or look for their thumb or look for their bottle in her case. I hope it's not milk, incidentally. Better be just water, is it? No, because if you give her a bottle of milk in bed, she'll have brown teeth later on. In fact, you can, when you're riding the bus, you can tell which which adults had milk in bed with them when they were babies. So, by their brown teeth. So don't give her milk in bed. But a bottle of water is all right, and I would just tie it to her bed so she can find it for herself. And when you go to her at night, shove it into her hand and let her see that she can be independent. 11 months, though, is the time that she's just about to learn to walk, and she's bound to wake up because she's frustrated. So this is a period when I would expect her to start waking up. But I'd still go in and show her she can get herself back down to sleep. Otherwise, you're going to be part of her sleep pattern forever. You don't want that, do you?
Good morning to both of you. Your question?
You. Yes, I have 2 questions. The first one is, I'm in the habit of rocking him to sleep before I put him in the crib. Is this bad? And secondly, I'm kind of a chronic user of Desitin.
Chronic user.
And is there
the Desitin people will be very glad to know you.
And I'd like not to be, and I'm wondering, there's a very toxic chemical in disposables. I'm wondering if that can be an irritant and if it is absorbed by the skin, and what can be the effects of that.
Well, I think they're working on that, so I'm not sure. I don't know enough about the toxic chemical. Desitin's all right to use, but you could use Vaseline, you know, too, and that would help just as much. Your first question was what?
She was asking about rocking him to sleep. Is it okay to rock him to sleep every night?
Oh, you better teach him to get himself to sleep. That's the first job if you want to avoid a sleep problem, is to let him learn he can get himself to sleep.
How, you know,
well,
she's
rock
wondering,
him.
Even if he cries for 45 minutes, our audience watching can't hear you, so.
Yeah. Well, what I'd do is rock him until he calms down and then put him in bed, not asleep, and then sit there and pat him so he'll get himself down and give him some sort of pattern. Show him his thumb or show him how to nest in bed or give him some pattern that he can do himself. Otherwise, you're going to be in for it forever.
What's most important in that first year? I mean, can you spoil a newborn baby?
No, I don't really think so. But, you know, like this lady in the audience who asked me about her 6-month-old, I think they begin to tell you at a certain point, I need to be more independent. And what you can do is overpower them with too much attention so they don't learn about their own autonomy, their own independence.
Well, and that brings up another thing, too. And I noticed sometimes with my little girl, who's now 2, for reasons that we couldn't figure out, she would go through these fits of crying. And do you know when the child is overstimulated? Does that happen? Can a baby get overstimulated,
Sure.
even in what seems to be a quiet environment?
Oh, absolutely. And they can get frustrated by just having too much happen around them. And maybe being held all the time is too exciting to him or too, you know, overpowering, either one. So he's telling you now that he's got to be put down more.
What are the messages to a parent that a baby is getting overstimulated? How do you know?
Well, I think you can watch them. They begin to get jerky, jittery, and their faces begin to get, you know, tight like that, and their eyes get wide. You know something's going on. You don't know what, but you can look for it, and by putting them down, let them tell you.
Hi, I have a question about you. I was wondering about if you're going to have any more shows and that type of thing, because I really enjoy your show, but, you know, they do get old.
They sure do, don't they? I agree. Right, Procter & Gamble. They are sure tiresome by the time they come around the third time.
You keep in contact with the families that were on there? Because, you know, they get to be kind of, when you see the same ones, my daughter knows the names of everybody that's on there.
She does?
It's become a part of your family now, huh?
Well, you know, yes, we've just made 13 more about working parents, and they'll be coming on Saturday for working parents. But we also are going to get another contract to make another series, thank goodness. But this book that I've just finished is about 5 of the families, and it was the most exciting book I've ever written. What every baby knows.
We have another caller now. Go ahead. Good morning. You're on Twin Cities Live.
Yes, hi. I wanted to ask the doctor, I have a little girl, she's a year old, who has 2 older sisters. They come home and give her virtually everything from school. The latest thing, however, is she's got a big cold sore on her upper lip, which I'm really concerned about. I know that's herpes simplex 1, and I'm wondering, can this affect her? She's awfully young to have this type of outbreak.
No, it isn't going to affect her. They get herpes all the time, and just so it doesn't get infected, so ask your pediatrician what to put on it so it won't get infected. But, you know, she's bound to get everything they bring home. This is the way she'll build up immunity, and she'll never have anything once she's gotten immune to everything they brought her. So she'll be the healthiest child in 1st grade going.
We're talking with Dr. T. Barry Brazelton, who is from Harvard Medical School. He is joining us today to answer all of your questions about parenting, and we will be back in just a minute to talk about child development.
All right.
It's Estee Lauder Christmas '87, and we have a special offer that goes everywhere you go. A complete collection for beautiful eyes, fabulous lips, 22 essentials to slip in your bag, or keep at home in a reusable tray. This outstanding value is just $22.50 with any Estee Lauder fragrance purchase. Then you'll have the luxury of Estee Lauder at your fingertips. Estee Lauder's special holiday offer is yours at Dayton's Cosmetics.
Well, hi, everybody. I'm at the weight loss clinic today, and I'm talking with Julie Baker, who, after visiting our clinic in Edina, had some great results. Tell me about them, Julie.
Well, I lost 40 pounds, and I went from a size 16 down to a size 12.
Oh, that is absolutely terrific. Congratulations. But besides the way you look, what else is happening in your life?
Well, I have a lot more self-confidence, and I have a wonderful relationship with a man that I really feel I wouldn't have had with the feelings that I had about myself before.
You don't think you'd have met him as your former self?
Well, I think I would have met him, but it would have been a lot harder for me to be more confident around him.
Okay. Well, just goes to show you some of the side benefits, the unexpected benefits of visiting the weight loss clinic. It worked for Julie, it can work for you. Through this Friday only, there's a special offer at your local weight loss clinic. Enroll in the program now and you'll get the entire month of December free. So call now for a free 30-minute consultation, and the nurses at the weight loss clinic can help you lose up to 25 pounds by Christmas if you start today. Call the Weight Loss Clinic today.
Big juicy blueberries bursting as they bake. Keebler makes new elfin loaves just like Mom used to make. Only smaller.
The Keebler elves bake real fruits, nuts, and spices into snacking-size elfin loaf snap breads. Then wrap them and rush them fresh to your grocer's freezer.
Blueberry, banana, carrot, raisin for a snack or a rake.
You Keebler elfin loaves.
Just like Mom used to make. Only smaller.
What do you do when someone you love has a heart attack? First comes the shock, followed by the realization of the long road to recovery that lies ahead. There is treatment available for the person stricken, but what about the needs of the other victim in this crisis? What we're talking about is the cardiac spouse, the victim who is actually often overlooked, according to author Rhoda Levin, who should know because she was one. Share in the experiences of Rhoda and other cardiac survivors Monday, December 7th on Twin Cities Live. Call for your free tickets, 641-1298. He looks like a natural, doesn't he? Dr. Brazelton, that's a 9.5-month-old little boy whose name is
Ricky Pearson.
Ricky. Tell us at 9.5 months, what's going through Ricky's mind? What's the big stage of development?
He's saying, what is this all about? My gosh, I never saw so many people. And look at that little, he's watching the other child. They love to watch other kids. And by this age, if two of them play together, you'll see them doing exactly the same thing without even looking at each other. They'll already be imitating. You want to talk to me?
Now, at this age, though, they don't play, they play side by side, but when is it that they really want to start playing together?
Oh, I think in the second year, they love to have a playmate, and they learn so much from each other with peripheral vision. They don't even watch each other, and they imitate each great hunks of behavior.
What influences development most of all? How much of it's genetic? How much of it's environment?
Well, it's hard to say, but the human baby is so beautifully programmed. They are incredible. And they're just set up to do a certain amount of developing all on their own. But of course, they do need fuel from the outside, from parents and from everybody around them.
Now, how is it that we can have two babies in the same family that can be so different? Like the woman mentioned early on in the show, that they're so different. They're from the same family, in the same environment. Why are they so different?
Well, I don't know, but they sure always are. It's almost as if they match each other. There are some triplets up there. Are they different?
Hi, I have two questions, but we actually have triplets, so they apply to all of them. The first is in regard to favoritism. And one thing we find in getting in routines with our children, we tend to focus on one individual. I work here with Sally and get things down really well with her. I'm worried about favoritism as we grow up, and I'm starting to focus on her a little too much.
Are you?
Maybe we could show, while you're talking about that, too. We have two girls and a boy here. And what age are these?
They're all 15 months, and they're growing up awfully quickly.
Oh,
not a very busy family, I'm sure.
Isn't that fantastic? Are you having fun?
We're having a lot of fun. It depends when you ask me, though. Right now, we're having a great time.
What about favoritism? What about favoritism with three like this?
I think you just can't worry about that. You've got to have individual feeling about each one of them, and you're not going to feel the same about them all. But what you'll probably do is feel, one will be a favorite at one stage of development, and then another will be a favorite at another stage. And over time, it'll all equalize itself. But with multiples, the main thing is they get so much from each other. I bet they're already interdependent, aren't they?
They certainly are.
It's wonderful to me to see how much they depend on each other.
I also have a question. We are somewhat concerned about the development of language because we've been told that multiples develop their own language, and we're more concerned about their learning English than their own language.
Does that usually happen?
Yeah, it's wonderful, too. I had some Japanese twins that mother never could get a sitter for. They were 2 years old. And the reason was that every word was half Japanese and half American, and their private language was so disturbing that a sitter wouldn't come back a second time.
So what you're saying is that they shouldn't be concerned about that.
No.
There's nothing they can do to change it, probably,
well,
is there?
You wouldn't change it. They'll just get more private rather than less private. So if you want to, you better just stay out of it and let them talk to each other. Then when they will talk to you, why, you'll they'll speak English to you.
We have another caller, and I think the mom of Ricky's going to want to pick him up here before he goes over the edge. Go ahead, caller. Good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, I have a question. I have a set of 3-month-old twins. They're boy-girl twins. And I was just wondering if you should keep them on the same schedule.
I don't think so, and I wouldn't even try too hard. It's better, isn't it, for them not to be on the same schedule, so you can sort of gear your day to them. You can certainly push them to eat at approximately the same time and sleep at the same time and things like that, and I certainly would do that. But otherwise, it's better to have One so you can play with them at special times, and another so you can play with them at other times. And other than the big hunky schedule, I'd rather have them sort of separate.
About 5 months ago, I had a new baby, and ever since then, Lindsay's been terrible with tantrums.
Yeah.
And I know part of it is adjusting to the new
Sure.
baby, but how long can I expect this to go on, and how can I best deal with them?
You can expect it to go on the rest of her life. And how can you best
It has
deal
nothing
with
to do with her name, though.
Stay out of it. You mean the temper tantrums?
Pardon?
You mean how to deal with the temper tantrums?
How do I best deal with them? Because, I mean, they're
Temper
awful.
tantrums are really hers, you know. The best way to deal with a temper tantrum is to walk out of the room. And then when it's over, come back and pick her up and love her. But you can't stop a temper tantrum.
Is it okay to, like, put her in her room and close the door and tell her when she's ready to deal with reality?
And then be sure to go to her when she does finish it.
It's not being cruel then.
No.
Because that's what the best, we can't stand listening to it, so
No.
that's how we deal with it.
And you just add to it.
Now, how much of that has to do, do you think, with just, how old is Lindsay, 2?
Well, she's 2. She turned 2 in October, so.
Does that have to do with just being 2, or does that have to do with a new baby?
Both. The new baby came at just the right time for the temper tantrums.
I think it was interesting in your book, one of the things you talked about was the little 4-year-old girl that you saw, and she was having tummy aches, and her mom was expecting, and you took a look at her and said, maybe these tummy aches really have more to do with mom expecting than anything wrong with the baby.
It's fascinating to me that little girls have stomach aches and little boys don't. I don't know why they know, but it must have to do with their mother's pains or something, but it certainly is fascinating.
The other thing was, what do you do when that new baby comes into the household? I mean, how can you control that environment so that it's a positive environment for your older child and still a real warm, loving environment? It's so busy.
It is, and you just can't do it all. You can prepare them, and then you can love them when the new baby gets home. But the trouble is they're bound to be jealous. There's no way to get away from it. What I do, though, is pick them up from time to time when the baby's not there and just sit down and love her and just say, now's your time, and now's my time to be with you. It'll surprise her, and then she'll settle down.
I was wondering when they can start drinking cow's milk.
Cow's milk?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I started about 8 or 9 months.
She's 8.5 right now.
Yeah,
She's like,
I started now.
okay, all right.
The Academy of Pediatrics recommends a year, but I don't go by that.
That brings up another thing, too. When you're choosing a pediatrician, how should you decide, number one, if you want a family doctor or if you want a pediatrician?
Aren't you asking the wrong person?
And what, well, you know,
I'm going to say a
everybody can
pediatrician.
make up their own mind on what you say. And then secondly, how you choose a pediatrician. What questions should you ask?
Well, you know, I think a family doctor serves a different purpose. A family doctor really serves the whole family. Pediatrician really should be for you and the baby. Unfortunately, pediatricians haven't been very well trained about child development, so a lot of them don't answer questions about development. If you're looking for one that does, ask your neighbors. They can tell you which ones will listen to you and talk to you, and I'd certainly look for one that'll listen to you. This is what a pediatrician should do.
We are talking with Dr. T. Barry Brazelton, who is with us on Twin Cities Live. If you have a question, call us in, and we will be right back.
X-Lax presents some gentle guarantees. The warm sun, the morning air, the peace of mind that comes from X-Lax. Taken at bedtime, it's guaranteed to work gently by 8 a.m. or your money back. X-Lax, it's guaranteed.
For gas pain and bloated feeling, Gas X has the fastest relief ingredient. Look, gas bubbles in beer. Add the leading antacid, add Gas X. Gas X got rid of the gas. Gas X has the fastest reliever for your gas pain and bloated feeling.
What are you feeding your body now?
A pure taste sensation.
Eggo Nutrigrain waffles. Hey, these are good for you.
Well, they're good for my taste buds, yeah.
Come on, Fred. It's Nutrigrain. It's whole grain goodness. It's, read my lips, nutritious.
I'm eating something nutritious?
Eggo Nutrigrain waffles from Kellogg's, original and raisin and bran.
And get this, no preservatives.
And there's no sugar added. Hey, Lego my ego.
Sorry, Fred, but something this good could send that body into shock.
Hey.
These are the tasty, ridgy Ruffles potato chips you pay for. Yeah. And these are the ones you don't. Ow, Ruffles, now with free chips in every bag. If you think there's no such thing as a free lunch, think again. Crisp, irresistible Lay's potato chips. There's a free lunch in every bag. Ruffles and Lay's brand potato chips. Now you get more and more.
This strawberry pie created by Homer Lemke broke all records. This 520-pound pineapple upside-down cake was created by the Fernstrom sisters. The ice cream chocolate record for the biggest tasting 2 bites around is now held by Rondo's. Rich ice cream and a thick coat of Dove Bar chocolate. This is one record you can hold. Rondo's. The enjoyment is enormous.
The bad news is you will recognize someone you know when you see this upcoming show, and it could be yourself that you recognize. The good news is that there is hope. What we are talking about is compulsivity. And if you or any woman you know shows signs of being a compulsive woman, then you will want to join us on Tuesday, December 8th. Sandra Simpson-Lassard will be here to share her story about overcoming this sickness. Also in our studio will be Mick Hunter, coordinator of the Compulsivity Clinics of America, to tell us how we can stop this behavior. It could be running up the credit cards, a little overeating, undereating, or even men. Whatever the addiction, you will want to be here Tuesday, December 8th, to find out what you can do to battle your compulsive urges. We are talking with Dr. T. Barry Brazelton, who, as many people know, is the pediatrician guru, really, of the 80s. And Dr. Brazelton, feel free to come out, join me in the audience, grab one of these babies, watch out. There might be a few things in the aisles, and especially watch out for those babies.
Can I hold your baby?
While you're doing that, let me ask you about discipline. How do you discipline? Can you discipline a little girl like this? No, just love him. I guess we've got the answer there. I think we may have lost him for the show now.
I don't think. I love the way they dig into your cheek or into your shoulder. I've
and
had
so
mothers...
serious and romantic almost here. Look at that. Can you discipline a baby
that I'm
like
not
this?
Her mommy or her daddy already, doesn't she?
Look at this. I mean, you're loving her. How do you discipline a baby like this?
You don't need to. Discipline starts at about 8 months when they crawl over to the television set and start to play with it and then look around to be sure you're watching. That's their way of telling you now it's time to start.
And how do you discipline?
Take them away at that point. It's when they get older and start having temper tantrums or start leading you round by the nose. You know, in the Stop and Shop, they go up and start pulling everything off the shelves, and then when you start to stop them, they lie down and have a rip-roaring temper tantrum. Everybody surrounds you looking at you like, what have you done to that beautiful child?
What do you think about, not certainly for a little one like this, but at any older ages, spanking? Do you ever recommend it?
No.
Never?
Never. But I've done it. Each of my children.
Okay, true confessions here, ladies and gentlemen.
I certainly don't recommend it, and neither would they. What would you?
But sometimes that's just important. I have another question now. With my 2-year-old daughter, we'll go through these stages where she'll sit there and she knows not to pour her milk. You know, she'll sit there, she'll look at me and just tip it over. I mean, after we've just talked about this and said, no, you know, it's been months since she's done this, and now she'll look at me. What is she trying to tell me? What's she asking for?
You put too much milk in her cup.
I don't think so.
That much. Either that or feed her in the bathtub. That's the other alternative.
But is there a message there from a child like that?
Yeah, that she's teasing you. She says it's more fun to tease you than to drink milk, which is true.
And so
Look
how,
at your
as a
face.
parent, You're not helping me here. So how, as a parent, are you supposed to respond to this?
Well, next time just give her that much milk, and she has to beg for it. And then she won't tease you any longer. What's this thing?
I have a question about self-esteem. I know it's one of the things that you talk about quite frequently.
Certainly
I have
is.
a 15-month-year-old, and can you give me a couple of real concrete things that I should be doing? Because I agree with you, because when they feel good about themselves, they really do make it. Thank you.
Well, the second year is when they're really trying out their self-esteem, and they're testing the limits. Limit setting in the second year is very critical, because that's when a child is trying to tease the limits for themselves. And I think the hardest thing today, for working parents particularly, is to come home and be a disciplinarian. They tell me all the time, all they want to do is come home and be good. But a child needs for you to say no at a certain point. This is where it stops. And then they feel more comfortable, they learn limits for themselves, and they become, that fosters their self-esteem. So that's a pretty critical time.
When is it that, does that little one that you're with now have a sense of humor? When do babies develop a sense of humor?
Listen, you have a sense of humor. Do you?
Yeah,
do. Did you lie? Not with me, because he's too worried about me as a stranger.
Shy. But can little ones like that have a sense of
going
humor?
Right now. He's saying, put me down, I want my mommy. Aren't you? What about
He's
you?
not so sure about you, huh?
Oh, look. Oh, see? You can tell by a child's face. Now you want to come back to me, don't you? That's right. I love it, the way they look back at you when you hand them to somebody else. Like, thank you for playing with me.
Now you're okay. Now that I've gotten a first look in Mom's back, you're okay. Is that the message there?
Oh, this is so much fun. Can't stay away from him.
Matthew is 4 months old, and he's very active and very alert and very curious. And he has never taken naps. He falls asleep in motion for 20 minutes at a time. Maybe twice a day,
well, naps
and
aren't
it's
made
impossible
for babies.
to get
They're made
him
for
to
mommies.
go to sleep.
So
Now, you're not tired, are you? You don't have a problem.
I've learned how to be energetic.
Well, that's great, but you need a break, and he does too. So just pick a time in the morning and pick a time in the afternoon, put him down. He doesn't have to like it.
How long can you leave him, though, if he doesn't want to be there?
Well, 30 minutes anyway. Can you sleep in 30 minutes?
You probably learn.
What if he just begins to cry hysterically?
Well, I'd sit there and pat him and let him know you're right
During
there,
bedtime.
but he's got to stay in bed for a while. I think you have to condition a child to learn to nap. And as I say, some kids that are this active just really don't want to ever quit, but they need it just like you do. You need it.
Sleeping habits seem to be one of the toughest issues for new parents and for all parents, really. And that raises a question, should you ever bring your baby to bed with you? What do you tell your patients? Is that okay? Or is this another one where you say no, but you do it?
No, I've never done it, ever in my life. I couldn't sleep with a baby. I tried one time, and she kicked me so much through the night that I decided that was not for me. There is a whole new theory called about sleeping with kids, and a lot of people in America are doing it today. How many of you sleep with your kids? Yeah, see, about half of mothers today are sleeping with their children. I personally think that learning to sleep at night is an autonomy issue, and it's better for them to learn how to take care of themselves at night. But a lot of parents don't agree with that, so I wouldn't argue.
We'll let Dr. Brazelton here take a look at another baby or two in this audience, and we will be right back on Twin Cities Live.
Can I hold all the triplets?
All three of the triplets at once.
It has been estimated that the average American woman tries on 16.3 pairs of jeans in order to find one pair that fits. But there are genes actually designed to fit the natural curves that make women look like women. Lee relaxed riders. It's not a better body you need. It's better genes.
Available at Dayton's.
Stouffer's Dinner Supreme presents the Duffy Sisters.
Hi, Joey. What's new?
What's new? This is new, Mrs. Duffy. Stouffer's Dinner Supreme.
We know all about Stouffer's, Joey.
But this is their new chicken parmesan dinner, complete unto itself. And this is Stouffer's Turkey Divan.
That is new.
Veal parmesan, happy chicken Monterey, all microwavable and all with the name Stouffer's.
We'll take them.
Great.
Stouffer's, now we make Dinner Supreme, too.
Ask him what's new.
Hello, Mother.
Hello.
We're the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Bakers.
I know.
Of course you do.
It does taste like cinnamon toast.
Like homemade.
We use the finest ingredients, like whole wheat.
That's good.
With sprinkles of real cinnamon and sugar. Less sugar than most kids' cereals.
That's great.
Bacon homemade taste. Better leave some for the kids.
Into Cinnamon Toast
Crunch.
Jumping from store to store, trying to find the lowest prices on toys is a tough game to play. But not when you land at Children's Palace, where you'll discover our low price on Galoo's Mr. Game Show, just $89.99 every day. 10 ways to play, but get it right.
Correctamundo, you win the grand prize.
'Cause he hosts the fun. So play the game you'll always win. Come to Children's Palace and discover how much less toys can cost.
Hi, I'm Wendy Lubavitch. Be sure to join me later today for Eyewitness News Midday as we open our mailbag. Eyewitness News Midday at 11:30.
What Every Baby Knows, Dr. Brazelton's new book, and I can tell you from having read it that it's the kind of book, if you ever have those late nights in between feedings, you're awake, it's quick enough reading, you can get through a little segment or two. You had a question.
Good morning, doctor. I have a question, wondering if you ever have a chance to answer personal letters, because I wrote you about 6 or 8 weeks ago regarding concern about playground equipment safety.
6 or 8 weeks is not too long for him to have responded, but what do you want to know?
My concern is the maintenance and the problems with playground equipment not being safe.
Mm-hmm. I remember that, and I wrote you back. I guess it hadn't gotten to you yet. But I write on the airplane, and I try to answer every letter I get, but I get a lot. Yeah, I think it's very critical that playgrounds be maintained. The trouble is with public playgrounds that nobody takes responsibility for them.
That's one of the areas parents really have to take a big responsibility. I remember being at a playground once where the slide actually came down, and the slide ended like 2.5 feet off the ground. And you wonder how it ever got put there, but you know that if you weren't the one to make your judgment, your child might be the one to go right down that.
Well, I don't know who you call in a city government to get action, but I sure would call them, because I think it's dangerous. And maybe somebody should, oh, right. I remember about your husband's foot, wasn't it? Mm-hmm.
Whining behaviors. I have an almost 3-year-old little girl who's just a darling in every way, but whines and whines continually to the point where my temperament gets pushed to the edge.
Mm-hmm. You know, the only way to handle whining is just to walk away from it. And when she starts whining, just say, "I'm leaving now," and walk out of the room. And you're negatively reinforcing it, in other words. And over time, she'll learn. But she's really just doing it to get to you. And this is normal for a 3-year-old. This is when they begin to try to get to you. It's coming for you.
Thank you very much. Many of
are.
these things keep coming back to that whole question of independence and how you shape an independent child. You want to nurture, and yet you want that child to be independent. What kinds of things can you carry through in the way that you deal with your child to nurture independence, as tough as it is?
Well, you start very early. By 4 to 4.5 months, it's time to already think about independence and autonomy and all of the issues that, and you reinforce the child for being on his own. And with whining, for instance, if you positively reinforce her by staying there and listening to it and getting uptight, she's going to keep on whining. You know, it's a sign of her own strength. If you walk away from her, she'll learn very quickly that's not the way to hang on to mommy or to tease her.
Hi, I'd like to know your opinion on when to introduce solid foods. Amory is going to be 6 months, and he's solely breastfeeding, and I just want to know your opinion. He's not sleeping through the night, and I've heard through my parents that you should be feeding him solids right now because he's still hungry, and I just want to know what your opinion on that is.
Well, I would say it was time to do that. He's telling you if I'm still hungry and on breast milk, because your milk is trying to keep up with him. And this is the wonderful thing about the breast, that it'll keep on trying to keep up with a baby. But I think by 5 or 6 months, you just can't do it any longer. So I start solids around 5 months. They need iron by 5 months. And so cereal, which contains iron, or meat, or any of the things that have iron in them, are really becoming necessary for him anyway. And they'll help him sleep through the night.
Go ahead.
Not much. Not enough.
Hi. I have a 2.5-year-old who every now and then seems to come up around bedtime with, I'm scared, and I honestly believe sometimes he really isn't scared, but I don't want to say there's nothing to be afraid of, because maybe he really is afraid. And I don't know how to kind of, well, I want to make him feel comfortable, but I just don't want to pass off that fear. And the same thing, little things like that pop up, like my tummy kind of hurts when I think it might be for attention, but I don't want to totally ignore the fact that maybe it does, or when to believe him and with fears and things like that.
Good for you. Well, when he complains about a stomach ache, I'd feel his stomach and say, okay, now it's all right. And, you know, you're paying attention to it, but you're also not taking it seriously. I think the same thing about fears at night. I'd take them seriously enough to say, well, I'll go in your room and look under the bed with you, or I'll do this, whatever he's afraid of, but just don't take them so seriously that you reinforce them. Because all kids come to light sleep about every 4 hours, and that's when fears come up, when dreams come up, when all sorts of waking issues come up. But if you reinforce them, they go on. If you just comfort him and say, but even if you're afraid of a witch, you can get back to sleep. We've looked under the bed.
When do the little ones start to dream and know that they're dreaming?
I don't know when they know that they're dreaming, but they, you know, by 4 months, when they begin to stretch out and put 2 of these 4-hour cycles together, because a baby like us comes up to light sleep every 3 to 4 hours and has to get themselves back down. So if they're going to sleep 8 hours, they have to put 2 of those 4-hour cycles together. If they're going to sleep 12 hours, they have to put 3 of them together. And every 4 hours, they come up to light sleep, dreaming, let off steam. Maybe about 12 months or so, they begin to be aware of a dream. And certainly by 2 and 3, they're very aware of dreams. So this is part of learning to sleep.
My little girl now is developing this imagination, and she'll tell me, you know, she'll get up from her nap and she'll say, I was dreaming, Mommy. I was dreaming about the circus, you know, and she'll go into the story about what all happened. And I wonder if it's just her imagination or if that's a dream that really occurred.
I don't know,
Who knows?
but it's wonderful. I think the neatest thing that kids do is to have imaginary friends, to catch you up in a story like a dream. And I would encourage it. I think
precious.
That's beautiful. Oh.
We have another caller. Good morning, caller. You're on Twin Cities Live. Go ahead.
Good morning. First of all, I want to thank you, Dr. Brazelton, for your practical and very loving support and suggestions and help with our children. My question is a little bit twofold. First of all, I have a 4.5-year-old daughter, and I have a 13-month-old daughter. And the 4.5-year-old is now slamming the 13-month-old.
I can't quite hear you. Could you talk louder?
I'm sorry. The 4.5-year-old is real unhappy with the 13-month-old. We have some real overt attacks, and we have those that are real subtle, you know, just sort of sticking out your foot when the little one walks by. I'm just wondering the best way to deal with that, and what is my 13-month-old learning in terms of not having the toys shared with her and constantly being pushed down?
Well, first of all, it's the time for her to get jealous, because the 13-month-old now is getting into everything that she cares about and is becoming much more of an intruder than she was before. So this is the appropriate time. Second of all, she's got to learn how to take care of herself, so you stay out of it. The more they can learn about each other with their competitive feelings, the more they're going to like each other. So don't make it into a triangle.
We're talking with Dr. T. Barry Brazelton. We will be back in just a minute.
Christmas is for kids. Thursday's Child on Eyewitness News.
He's a doctor of optometry here at the Eyeworks. First step in the glasses fast, glasses right promise. Thanks, Steve. This little piece of paper is my prescription for a new pair of glasses. Now, here's the really fast part. The lab's right here in the Eyeworks with the specially trained technicians and all the latest equipment. They can make my glasses in an hour. You can stay and watch if you want. The new me. That fast.
Major HMO and PHP members can get 15% off regular priced eyewear at the Eyeworks.
Remember your first pair of jeans? Because you had a body like a boy, they probably fit you like a boy. The problem was, as your body changed, your jeans didn't. But there are jeans designed to fit the way you are today. Lee Relaxed Riders. It's not a better body you need. It's better jeans.
Available at Dayton's.
5 cups of Freestone peaches, 150 Montmorency cherries, 2 pounds of Northern Spy apples. These have to be Mrs. Smith's natural juice pies because each one is bursting with fruit. No ordinary pie piles this much fruit under a tender, flaky crust. So much fruit that it actually bakes in its own natural juice. That's why this isn't just any pie. This is a Mrs. Smith's natural juice pie. It's in a class by itself.
This is a great audience, a wonderful audience we have here today. Dr. Brazelton, the family is changing so much. We have people in this audience that are on maternity leaves from jobs, paternity leaves. Sounds like the end of the show. You can tell we're getting near the end with these kids.
Wow. Chaos.
Can you keep a strong relationship with your child, and how do you do it when both parents are working, you come home, and you're tired?
Terrible. Well, first of all, you got to learn to cheat on the workforce so you have enough energy when you come home for your kids and for the family. And the first thing I do is walk in the house, have a big rocking chair, and sit down and gather everybody up and just sit and rock, including your husband.
Just have a nice big love.
Then as soon as everybody begins to squirm, they're telling you it's okay now, you can do whatever else you have to do. And then when you go in to cook dinner or whatever, take the kids with you and teach them how to help you. Because if one thing we can do for kids is to teach them how to manage a stressed family. That next generation, they're going to know how to manage a working family if you take them in the kitchen with you, or take them to set the table, or clean the toilets, or whatever else you have to do.
I know you've been very supportive of the maternity leaves, the paternity leaves, having both parents home sometime when that new baby comes into the home. What do you think of daycare?
Well, I think it's here to stay, and we better make it as good as we can. The trouble is we haven't. 50% of mothers in this country are having to leave their kids with somebody they don't trust. Now, how would you feel about that? So we've got to get good daycare, or we're really endangering the future of at least half of our children.
Do you look to the future with great concern when you hear that 50% of the people have concerns?
Yeah. When I testified in Congress about what would happen if we don't get good daycare, I said, well, terrorism. Well, every congressman had a big startle. It's the word to use in Washington.
But, I mean, that sounds extreme, but you mean that seriously.
I do mean it seriously. I think if we allow kids to be in dangerous and non-nurturing environments, we can expect them to turn out to be terrorists.
And when you look at a daycare situation, a daycare provider, what's the most important thing you should be looking at? Is it how much individual attention your child will get? Is it how much turnover there may be on the workforce? Obviously cleanliness, but I mean, tick off for us what you
All
have
of those
discovered.
things. But you know what I'd look for? First of all, I'd look for safety, and then to see whether they really respect each child and whether they respect the rhythms that the child has of needing to go down and come up. But then I'd watch to see if when the baby looks at the caregiver like this, you know, like prostitute's eyes, does she look back and do the same thing back to the baby? If she does, you know she's a good caregiver and she respects your child. So I'd always look for that. If she looks away or doesn't pay any attention to that prostitute's look, get out.
You mentioned thumb sucking earlier, and as a concerned grandmother, I have a 6-year-old grandson who still sucks his thumb periodically. And I was just wondering, how would you handle that, or what's the best thing to do?
I think
with
as
that?
a grandparent, you better stay out of it. I warn you. But, you know, if he just uses it for comfort or when he's bored or something like that, I'd say more power to him. If he used it all the time, I'd worry a lot. But if it's just for emergency situations, I think he's smart. He has something right there to comfort himself with.
Yes, as a grandmother, can I spoil my grandchild? I just love to sit and just hold her and watch her.
Oh, you know, I'm writing another book now on these television shows, and one part is going to be about grandparents. Grandparents give children a chance to see the mountaintops. And, you know, parents never have time to do that or the energy to do that, but a grandparent can lead a child right to the top of the mountain. When people ask me why I'm a pediatrician and why I like babies, I always think about my grandmother. She was my hero, of course, and she would say to me, "Barry, you're so good with babies." Every time anybody says that to me now, I think about my grandmother.
It's hard to be a grandparent today when you have your children living so far away from you more often than not.
It really is. And it's hard to know how to be a grandparent. I think all of us, when we see our grandchildren, want to rush up and hug them, and that's the worst thing you can do. I've learned with my grandson to walk in the house and never look at him. And then all of a sudden, about 5 minutes later, I feel this hand on my leg. And I know it's time now to look down at him and pick him up. Before that, he'd just ignore me.
That raises a whole new question. With the holidays here, and lots of traveling that goes on, it's tough sometimes. You're bringing a new one home, even the 2-year-old, with all these relatives they may have seen once or twice or 3 times. What's the best way for a family to try and deal with that?
Well, I'd certainly treasure it. If there's one thing we can do for kids right now in our nuclear stressed families, is to treasure the extended family. And even though it's tough as young parents to put up with a grandmother's telling you what to do, remember that if she tells you what to do and you say, "I'll never do that," you cut out 50% of the variance. You only have the other 50 to decide about. So grandparents are pretty important.
And just encourage everybody to take their time and remember that this baby may not remember all of them as well as they remember the new baby.
Well, I try to make times like Thanksgiving and Christmas very special and try to always get together. They're very important. They're important to kids.
Okay, when we get back, we're going to get to the nuts and bolts here, talk a little bit about that one subject I think so many people want to know about, toilet training, when we come back with Dr. Terry Brazelton.
When you taste Progresso, you know it. There's no soup quite like it. Progresso has that sunny Italian flavor, a special goodness all its own.
There's no soup like Progresso. Wilson has a ham that's new. It's leaner, better tasting too. Only Wilson ham will make you say, Wilson.
And Wilson gives you this guarantee right on the package. Find a leaner, better tasting ham, and we'll give you a full refund.
New Wilson ham.
change of pace? Try a little variety from West Bend. Why not treat yourself to the Food Chopper from West Bend?
Around here, the early bird gets the Eggo. Gently put in the Eggo as not to arouse any sleeping taste buds. Cleverly divert its delicious aroma from filling their dreams with crisp golden Eggo waffles.
Hi, Dad. What's for breakfast?
Nothing.
And I can have this?
Let go my Eggo.
Eggo waffles from Kellogg's, part of this nutritious breakfast.
Gently put in the Eggo.
Get down there, Daddy!
What Every Baby Knows, the new book out by T. Barry Brazelton. Dr. Brazelton, in a minute and a half here, let's tell everybody about toilet training. How do you know when it's time, and what do you do with this little fella?
Well, I think it ought to be called toilet teaching, not toilet training. It ought to always be up to the child, not up to the parent. That means you got to wait until the second year, and you got to wait till they're ready, and then show them one step at a time.
How do you know if they're ready? If they go sit in the toilet and they say, I don't want to go to the toilet, Mommy. I don't have to go. They're not ready? Forget it?
That's right. If they pick it up themselves each step, they'll be so proud of it. One of our daughters wouldn't get off the pot. We had to drive her back and forth to Cape Cod, 2 hours sitting on the pot all the way. At the end of it, I'd count it and measure it, and she would stand there beaming. This is what you're after, not anything else. If you want to play with this,
I wanted to ask you a question. We've been trying to get him to sleep through the night.
The what?
Trying to get him to sleep through the night, and he's 5 months, and he still won't do it. We've given the bottle at 11 or 12, and he gets up at 3, and then he gets up at 6.
Oh,
it was 14 months for us.
Woo! And he's 5 months old? Well, I just not
Accommodations for guests on Twin Cities Live, provided by the new Whitney Hotel, located city side of the Mississippi overlooking St. Anthony Falls. Henderson chauffeured Cadillacs provide limousine transportation for the guests of Twin Cities Live. Henderson's offers the largest selection of color, style, and service in the 5-state area. Hair and makeup provided by Take 5, 504 North 1st Avenue in the Butler Building.
Can it be sometimes a year before a baby's going to sleep through the night?
Oh, God, I'd hope not.
Everybody says, of course, theirs sleep through the night at 6 weeks. I know everybody says it, but I don't believe it.
No, they don't. And there are times when they do wake up, even if they've been sleeping, such as 5 months and 8 months when they, just as they're beginning to crawl, and then at 10 months when they stand up on the side of the crib, you know, and act like they can't get back down. And at a year, those are inevitable times. What you saying?
Holiday gift giving. What age should you encourage the babies to be giving a gift as well as receiving?
Oh, gosh, I think from the first, but certainly by the second year, I'd start teaching kids how to make things for other people and make...
An old-fashioned Christmas from Snyder's, your Old Corner drugstore, for today. Just in time for Christmas, save on the Jean 2 beautiful colognes gift set, sale priced at just $10.99. Save $8 on the 3-pack of Polaroid T120 VHS videotape, now $9.99 after rebate. Everybody needs Eveready Energizer batteries, regular to $2.99, now just 69 cents after rebate. For all your holiday needs, shop Snyder's, the Old Corner drugstore, for today.
This is a